This is the story of how I achieved international fame. When I was a little kid, I knew I was destined for big things. I wanted to be a professional funny man. Every family gathering featured me standing in the living room reciting jokes I'd memorized from my big yellow joke book, which was thicker than a Bible and way more important to me. My heroes were stand-up comedians, specifically Mr. Bill Cosby. My parents owned 2 Bill Cosby albums, and I listened to them over and over. I honed my craft by reciting my favorite routines from the albums into a tape recorder, and every punchline got my best attempt at a Bill Cosby laugh. When my parents found these tapes about 2 or 3 years ago and played them for the entire family at Thanksgiving dinner, thanks, Mom, they did get big laughs, so I think 6-year-old me would have been proud of that. Years later, I did get my shot at fame, and I skipped right past the comedy clubs and went straight to TV. In 2005, my wife and I started a business making cakes and cupcakes for weddings and other special occasions. Before cakes, my wife was a PR consultant, so she knew how important it was to our business to get our name out in the press to help build our brand. So we were super excited when we found out we'd been booked to do a live on-air cooking segment on the Fox 5 Midday News. So we'd been booked for New Year's Eve, and we were super excited because we knew that one TV appearance that went well could bust open the door to tons more appearances. And then before you knew it, we'd be on the Today Show, and then we'd be on the Food Network, and then people would be calling us a year in advance to beg us to make cakes for them, like a guy from Ace of Cakes. So we put our all into it. Since we were being on New Year's, we went with a New Year's party theme, and we invented a new recipe: a Bailey's Irish cream cheesecake and a chocolate cookie crust with a chocolate sauce made from dark chocolate and Bailey's Irish cream. I was a little nervous about being on camera the first time because I'd never done it before, but Mary was an old hand at preparing chefs for TV. So we practiced our routine in our kitchen, and we made all the swap outs for the parts of the recipe we weren't going to have time to do on camera, or they'd just be too noisy. So, and we even got New Year's hats and streamers and a couple of my signature hand-painted cakes to jazz up the set and make it look like a New Year's party. When we got to the studio, we found that the Fox 5 kitchen set is a wonderful example of the magic of television. On TV, it looks very bright and cheerful, and like it's so close to the anchor desk, they can smell you cooking while they're reading the news. In person, it's actually tucked in one corner of a cavernous black studio that's downstairs from the anchor desk, which we never got to see. So we set up, and we're waiting to start the show, and we look around, and the cabinets and countertop are plywood props, and the burners work if you plug them into a power strip on the floor. And my favorite part was the oven. When we were sliding a cheesecake into the oven to bake, I was actually just bending over to put it on a cardboard box underneath the counter. When it came time for our demonstration, Allison Seymour, who was the midday news anchor that day, came downstairs to meet us during commercial break. Then they came back from commercial and the cameras rolled, and we started into the routine we'd practiced. Mary and I went back and forth, making the crust, pressing it into the springform pans, mixing batter, and all the whole time, Allison and the weather guy are making comments, asking questions, and joking how the Bailey's smells so good they're going to eat the batter before we can bake it. Before I knew it, the segment was over, the show was done, and the cameras were off. And without warning, Allison reaches for the bowl of raw egg-filled batter to take a big scoop out of it to eat. And without any conscious thought on my part, I slapped her hand away. I was instantly horrified by what I'd done. I'm not prone to hitting people generally. Definitely not TV personalities I want to impress. But I guess I was just so overwhelmed by a powerful sense of food safety that my common sense went out the window. Anyway, Mary came to my rescue by offering up one of the finished cheesecakes we had brought for the cast and crew, and a few bites of booze-soaked cheesecake later, I was forgiven. So my first 5 minutes on TV was I would say a success, other than slapping the on-air talent. And we even got a note from the producer the next day saying that he thought our part of the show went great and he'd love to have us back in the future. So we knew the next step was to get ourselves on a bigger show, and that's exactly what we did. A few months later, we got contacted by the creator and star of a self-produced cooking show because she was putting together a cupcake theme episode, and she was getting bakers from the DC area to come on and make some of their signature dishes. We'd never heard of the show, but she told us that she had lined up the owner of a trendy new DC cupcake shop, which shall remain nameless, so we thought we were in pretty good company and we agreed to do it. When we arrived at the address we'd been given for the filming, it was a condo building. And it turns out that the TV studio was the creator, producer, and star's studio apartment. We had to wait out in the hall, sitting on our plastic crates of supplies for about 45 minutes while the previous show wrapped filming. Because the filming was in the apartment's kitchen, and the 4-man crew was set up about 2 feet away from the kitchen counter. And there wasn't room for the current show being filmed and us to get in at the same time. When they did let us in, we had to duck under the cameras to get from the front door to the dining room to set down our stuff. The first half of the show went pretty well. We were making peanut butter cupcakes with chocolate frosting, and again, we'd rehearsed, we'd prepared, we had our swap outs. It went pretty well. The only problem was the host's idea of banter was sort of like being on a baking-themed quiz show, where she would ask me increasingly difficult questions about the ingredients and techniques we were using. She almost got me with, "So David, what's the difference between all-purpose flour and cake flour?" While I was trying to decorate a cupcake. I racked my brain for a few seconds and I came up with the answer. In case you ever find yourself in this situation, the answer is cake flour has less gluten and it's more finely ground. So we finished up our segment, and that was pretty good. But then she told us that that owner of that trendy DC cupcake shop had canceled at the last minute, and would we want to hang around so we could be her on-air company while she did her own recipe? We were kind of looking forward to leaving because it had been hours since breakfast, and we thought maybe we'd be able to get some lunch after we left. But we thought the more time on TV, the better for our careers. So yeah, we'll stick around. We'll do that. We're game. So we find out the host of the show doesn't believe in quite the same level of advanced preparation that we did. And the cameras filmed her measuring every ingredient, mixing batter, mixing frosting, and then the cameraman had to change his tape because he'd been filming so long. So we got going again with the filming, and eventually she was able to get the cupcakes in the oven, and then we had to take a break while they baked. That was good because it gave her time to wash dishes, because the pile of dirty measuring cups and bowls in her sink was so high you couldn't really miss it on camera. Then the cupcakes came out of the oven, and we were getting ready to start filming again when she announced, "Okay, now we've got to just wait a little while these cool enough to frost." That was unfortunate because we'd really just run out of small talk during dishwasher hour. Well, we got rolling again, and after a few more fits and starts, the decorating was done, the show was wrapped, and we were able to leave by dinner time. About a month later, we got a copy of the episode in the mail, and I have to say we did pretty good. And I was excited that we were going to be on 3 local access cable stations, including one in the DC area. And because the owner of that trendy DC cupcake shop had canceled at the last minute, I was going to be the face of DC cupcake baking in multiple markets in New Zealand.